On everybody? I hope you're all doing well. I really do. This isn't going to be uh, but long by any means. I'm going to try to keep it as short as I can. I just want to talk a little bit about obviously what's going on with Israel and Palestine. There's so much to get into, and there's just not enough time to get into it in this video. And that is even considering that I have the correct information to even talk about these things accurately, which nobody does. But what we can do is we can connect dots and see where things are leading. And ultimately, that's going to be something that we're going to have to do when we're talking about this. What's up, Jen? Good to see you. Appreciate the support of the channel, of course. Thank you. Um, Glad you could join. So, as far as I'm concerned, and from what I believe, this is the beginning of a very dark period. It's not going to start off this way instantly, right? All these things take a little bit of time to unfold, but none of this is by accident. What's up, Melissa? I was just thinking, Jen, thank you as well. I appreciate supporting this channel. It really does help. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank both of you. It's going to take a little time, but we're going to see more and more of the intended outcome. As what's up, Squirrel? Good to see you. Glad you made it. As more of this unfolds, we're going to start seeing that a lot of everything that's happening here is by design. Okay, let's take it back to the pullout of Afghanistan, where for some reason we left tons of millions and millions, if not billions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars of military equipment behind that ended up falling into the hands of, I mean, you name it, really, right? Like the Taliban, and now Hamas is using AR-15s that are from the U.S. when they've always had AKs. Now that they're just completely dressed out with all sorts of military equipment. And that's we're going to talk more in detail about all these things. I kind of just want, you know, how I like to do it. Hello, Indigo, good to see you. I like to kind of just cover briefly some of the stuff and go over it. Not to say that none of you guys are unaware of what's going on, because how could you possibly not be, of course. But this is a very big deal. The DHS laying out these bulletins. We're going to cover that bulletin. It's important, I think, as a reminder of what that says. But how perfect of a situation, and it'll make more sense when we go over it again, but if you recall about like foreign influence, foreign resources, the assistance in in the United States homeland with dealing with other entities somehow. And it just seems like they're building up all of this stuff, and all these pieces fit so well together that it's just a matter of time before something big pops off. And well, I mean, I've been saying that for a little while now. Hurricane Lydia. I've been so wrapped up with other stuff, I'm not even aware about Hurricane Lydia. But that was one of the things that I said, we're going to have a hell of a hurricane season. You know, when I did the January 1st or December 31st predictions of what 2023 will bring, I figured they got to really pound that climate agenda down our throats. So they have the tools to do it. Never doubt the ability of Republicans to make a foreign war all about their anti-immigration agenda. I mean, I'm not a Republican. I'm certainly not a Democrat. But considering everything that's going on right now, considering that there's Chinese, there's Russian-speaking people, there's all sorts of Middle Eastern people. Of course, we got, like Nicaraguans and Mexicans, and I mean, all Central America, essentially, all over the place. There's just people being funneled in through our border. This isn't by accident. They've been telegraphing. What happens when you take a family, multiple families, and you set them up in 5-star, 4-star hotels? You give them everything that they need. You cater to, literally, I'm talking about, they gave them, many of these hotels gave them their standard food. And this was a story a while back. And they didn't like it. They wanted some of their home-cooked styles. So they brought in chefs, like authentic chefs to cook their food for illegally crossing the border. Now, what does that do? Well, I'll tell you what I would do. Excuse me. I would most certainly call the family and be like, you never believe it. This country is even greater than they said it was. We got over the border and they picked us up in a bus. They took us in the middle of the heartland. They threw us in this amazing hotel where there's a spa and a pool, and it's just absolutely amazing. And we don't have to pay for food. We don't have to. They give us money, right? They get actual money on a card. So anything that they want to buy, they get clothing. They get a certain amount of money when they come here. It's better than, it's the lottery on steroids if you're coming from any other country, right? I mean, even if this were to happen to any of us, if they were like, hey, we're going to give you for the rest of your life, you just won. You could stay at any 4 or 5-star hotel you want, and all these things are included, all these amenities. You get your own chef and all that. That's awesome. That's incredible. But could you imagine to somebody that's like coming from a third world country, even supposing that they don't have nefarious intentions, which there is jihad taking place across the globe. There is a religious war that has already been declared. And that is by the Islamic community, not all of them, of course, but by the militants especially. And this last attack from Hamas really sent out the signal that it's on. Now it's official. And that's what they've been saying. So if by happenstance, and why would we be so foolish to think that wouldn't happen? You have all these countries chanting in the streets, death to America, and you hear about open borders, and that they're not checking, they're not doing background checks, they're not doing any of that. You just come right on in, and if you want, you'll get the assistance, but if you want to go through the back door, nobody's asking questions. So now to even be concerned with everything going on, that there may be people that are just flooding in on through. So now we're going to create the wall. Now Biden's saying, yes, we'll build. I mean, a little late, don't you think? But it wasn't ineptness. It wasn't a left versus right thing, because it's all a big game. It's a charade. It's an illusion. The world is a stage. And they make it look like one side wants this and the other side doesn't, and Biden allowed all this to happen because he's old and he's... No. No. All of this has been planned for a very long time, and it is probably working perfectly. Responding to an eruption of deadly violence between Hamas militants and Israeli defense forces that threatens to claim many more lives in the days ahead, Donald Trump and far-right allies are using the crisis to push a familiar anti-immigration narrative back home. Well, I mean, when we see that we're sending the largest military aircraft carrier to Israel, when you see that we're sending some fighter jets that are already kind of stationed nearby, and I mean, Israel runs this country. Don't forget it. Like, it's not that we're allies. Israel runs this country. We are beholden to them. Just about every other country is as well that has a central bank. Don't forget it. What are the ones that don't? Well, we got the new axis of evil. Who's involved in that? Iran, China, and Russia. Now, China has a central bank, but China also has their own currency backed by actual value. They own the debts. They own our debt. They not just ours. So their currency is actually worth something, and they don't really need to depend on the loans being given to them by the central bank. So they're not beholden to the central bank that is in China. So that makes them an enemy of the central banks. Now, Russia doesn't have a central bank. They've been working on getting one established, and Iran certainly doesn't have a central bank. These are the last Mohicans on the world stage that really are not playing ball with the Rothschilds. And the other families, of course. I use that one because everybody knows, but you can't have a new world order if you don't have the entire world. And China wants to lead that new world order, and they don't want the Rothschild Bank, and they've essentially allied with Russia, even though we're like, well, Biden pushed them in the arms. No, this is not, that's not, don't listen to anything coming from the media, ever. Unless you're trying to figure out what not to believe. The same people that raided Israel are pouring into our once beautiful USA through our totally open southern border at record numbers, Trump claimed, without evidence on his... Well, show me evidence otherwise. There may not be evidence for it, but there certainly isn't evidence against it. So could we at least consider the possibility? And even if it wasn't, they're setting the stage for something to happen. So really what's probably happening is the FBI is probably, and the DHS is probably already working on the plans for whatever structure it is that they're going to eviscerate. And then they're going to say, oh, well, it was a combination between some of these people that, came up through the border that worked side by side with some of these anti-government extremists, these crazy conspiracy theorists, because they've been, for years and years, I've been focused, dialed in on this stuff, paying close attention to what our government and what their agencies are saying and who the enemy of our government. Advisory. This was May 24th of this year. Summary of terrorism-related threat to the United States, domestic violent extremists, and those associated with foreign terrorist organizations continue to attempt to motivate supporters to conduct attacks in the homeland. So you mean to tell me the same time the DHS is putting out warnings saying that there's foreign terrorist organizations continuing to attempt to motivate supporters to conduct attacks in the homeland, we're supposed to believe that any suggestion of this very thing is a conspiracy theory. So it's, but if you say it, well, then you're a conspiracy theorist who happens to top the list of people that they're interested in. Maybe they should be looking at themselves. Matter of fact, the attack ends up happening. Like 9/11, right? I mean, who at this point can honestly sit there and spend the way the government said? With all of the, it's in some story, high-rise steel structure built at free fall speed, had a small fire on the upper, what was it, the southern corner, I don't remember, but it had a small office fire. Well, guys, let me know. I always say, let me know if anything is if you can't hear me or if something goes on. Let me know in the chat, because there's not, I don't have a whole lot in my arsenal, but there's a couple things I can do to help. Both domestic violent extremists and those associated with foreign terrorist organizations continue to attempt to motivate supporters to conduct attacks in the homeland, including through violent extremist messaging and online calls for violence. I haven't seen any of that, and I'm rather involved in this so-called conspiracy theory movement or this community, even though nothing that I spread it. I try to stay away from conspiracy theories. I try to focus on things that we can prove. And if it is a conspiracy theory, I'll be the first to admit. I'm like, yes, and I've said this before. I'm like, well, this is actually a conspiracy theory, but it does look like this is what we're, but not. What's up, Nukima? Good to see you. And I heard Active Research is in the room. Active Research is in the building. So if that's the case, good to see you. Shulamite, welcome. Thank you guys for being here. Hopefully you stick around. And more importantly, this is what I've been waiting for, unfortunately, my entire life. These days, and it's been a long time coming. I'll say that. But this is where things start heating up, right? And there's a lot coming, and it's going to come very, very fast. It's going to be like whiplash. Like you thought 2023, 2022 were just full of all these crazy things. You haven't seen nothing yet. So do what you can to get the message out there, to share it, and get people over here. We don't need everybody over here, but if you see, a community or a channel or something, drop a link or mention the channel. Get it. And it's not about I could care less about, what my subscriber number says. It's not a popularity contest to me. It's about the information. And there's certain things that I think are going to end up happening that we can kind of, we'll talk about that later. But this is an important channel. Not just because I'm saying it. In the coming months, factors that could mobilize individuals to commit violence include their perceptions of the 2024 general election cycle. Yeah, they can't wait for that one. And legislative or judicial decisions pertaining to socio-political. Yeah, that's awfully specific. Likely targets of potential violence include U.S. critical infrastructure, faith-based institutions. Well, yeah, we'll probably see a little bit more of that now that this is going on. Individuals, or even at least they'll tell us that we're seeing more of it. Just like these flyers and this literature that keeps popping up in these communities, all this anti-Semitic literature, and nobody knows where it's coming from, but it has the same font type as like what the FBI sends out in their memos. It's hilarious. And not these memos. I'm talking about like their in-house memos. Thank you, Shulam. I appreciate it. additional information. In May 2023, a now deceased individual. Well, we don't need to know more. I'm gonna try. Like I said, I'm gonna try to keep this quick. I wish I had more time to spend, but there's plenty of time coming up. Not plenty. I shouldn't say that, but there's a lot going on already, guys. A lot already. And none of this is going to be covered by the mainstream. The stuff that I'm covering now is. But there's going to be a lot that is going to be kept out. And I'm going to do everything I can to try to find a way to get. And I'm pretty good at research. Well, I'm damn good at researching, actually. So if there's a way, I will do my best to find what I can, whether it's like using VPNs and actually pretending I'm a part of that country so I can access their types of social media networks and talk to people using translators and whatever the case may be. I need to know what's happening, and I think you guys should know as well. So I will do my best. But we can also definitely gain some insight by what the media is and isn't talking about. In this case, I mean, there are certain things that they're not going to be able to hide from the public that they just have to get out there. And whether it's by design or this is a natural organic progression, who's to really say? I mean, we could all speculate, but Turkish warplanes hit Kurdish militia targets in northern Syria after U.S. downed Turkish armed drone. So I don't know who was with me a couple years ago when I was talking about Turkey. It wasn't even a couple years ago. It was like a year ago. And saying the way that things are building up, that I think Turkey and Iran are going to be huge players in the beginning of this war. Obviously, what we're building to is the U.S. versus Russia and China. To me, this is just depopulation. The people that are behind these closed doors, the so-called leaders of these governments, they're all on the same page. If they got other than the actual, like, there's a very few, and I would say Iran probably isn't on the same page. Iran does seem like they don't like what's going on, and honestly, Russia doesn't either. But it seems like Russia's also playing ball. There's been a lot of meetings happening. There hasn't been too many meetings with the Ayatollah, that's for sure, right? Although there has been some. So actually, I was just looking into Saudi Arabia. So there was a deal. This is what's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to put this in. So I think what I have to do is to go way back and start this fret. Kind of do what I did with the Charles Lieber playlist type stuff. Start at the beginning. Start covering like small things. Geopolitics. I know that's boring for a lot of people. It's boring for me. But to really get an understanding of what's going on in the possible scenarios that we could see, I think it's important to understand the landscape, not necessarily the landscape, but like the geopolitics of it all. And not to say that, again, that a lot of it hasn't been set up that way, but it doesn't matter whether it has or not. If it has been set up that way, it's been set up that way so it can fulfill a purpose. If not, if it is organic, then it's the same thing, right? It's happening that way, so you see what's happening and you know it's going to probably occur, or at least you could get a rather decent estimate of it. I thought this was a little interesting piece. Israel and the rise of the New World Order. Iran and Russia see Gaza as a challenge to the West. Within hours of Hamas's attack on Sunday, the celebrations had started in Iran. The office of Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, I don't know, released a new propaganda video glorifying the so-called Al-Aqsa Storm operation in Tehran's Palestine Square. Regime flunkies handed out drinks and sweets to passers-by. In the coming days, Israel and Hamas will dominate the head. Guys, I left in the description just three. There's very, very many ones that I could have left, and I probably will end up leaving. But 3 Bible verses that you should study, not just read. You should study. You should figure out exactly what it means. If you're unfamiliar with what Assyria is, then look it up, right? Like figure out what it means, because though it's very prophetic, and we are in these times now. There is no doubt. I don't know. I was younger, and I wasn't so sure about some of these things I was reading. Certain things just seemed like the world would have to be shaken and turned upside down for it to even be plausible. But somehow, many of these things along the way have happened. And they just keep going. Like these 3 that I have in the description, when I say if you don't have a solid understanding of them, then you definitely should. You definitely should. I'm running out of time. Well, that's just for tonight, though, guys. I got so much. And it's not... I'm going to try to find a way to make it more interesting. Because... not just for you guys, for me, myself as well. Because if I get bored covering something, then I don't invest myself like I would with things that I'm passionate about. And though this is a very important topic, the things, all of the moving parts that are involved can get tedious, right? Can get long-winded trying to explain them, especially when you're talking about stuff that's like, yeah, well, that's history, and what's that got to do? Like, big deal. But those things actually kind of are important to show what led up to some of the things. Now, that's not a huge important thing that we need to know, like the history of it, but some of it is. The other part that comes shortly after, like kind of catching people up, including myself, is the stuff that I'm pretty damn well aware of what's going on, because I've been paying attention to it for the last few years. So that shouldn't be too much of an issue. I can find a way to bring that out in a way that I think will be entertaining enough for it to absorb. Not to say that, again, I'm not saying that you guys won't. This isn't about just reaching you guys, right? Like, each video, hopefully we can get like 1 or 2 more subscribers, but they're not just going to be any subscribers. That's not the way this channel has worked or will continue to work. I just got a feeling about that, you could say. Something to pay attention to. Oh, guess we can't. Israel being hacked. There's going to be... oh, maybe we can. There's going to be a... no, we can't. There's going to be a lot of stuff that ends up happening in these next couple of weeks. And it's going to happen on many different fronts. This story, I think, ultimately, is going to die down a little bit. I would think they would want it to. I would think in order for them to make a lot of the moves that they are going to make, they wouldn't want to be under the microscope of the general public. So I think even though this is very, very important stuff that's happening, biblical stuff, I think that after a few days, it's going to die down a little bit, but then, because the surprise of whatever attack that they're planning, the surprise is half of it, right? It's to catch you off guard, and then thereafter, each subsequent surprise. I think you know quite well my prediction about how this type of thing unfolds, these next attacks, and it kind of ties in with what the DHS ended up saying in this bulletin, right? Even though I was predicting it long before that, saying that this is probably the way it's going to work, and it's, I think they got rid of an article that I really wanted to cover, but hopefully this one will cover something similar. I didn't read this one yet. I'm going to leave on this one, but I'll try to find the other one and bring it up in my next video. How conspiracy theories are damaging democracy. Damaging democracy. Guys, we've gone over and invaded countries for this very reason. Not because conspiracy theories, but for democracy, right? When you see that and you see democracy damaging democracy, you better, whoever's in those crosshairs needs to be worried. Whoever they're calling conspiracy theorists, should probably be worried. And nothing new over on this channel, right? We've known that since 2019 when Rolling Stones covered the FBI's, putting them at the top of their list. You know, I mean, we've been covering it since like literally 2007. But as far as, you know, a major agency actually saying, hey, this is our number one threat, that's 2019, and that's the FBI. And ever since then, they've been throwing that term around. My goodness, like anything and everything, whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. If they don't want you talking about it, then it's a conspiracy theory. And a channel like this, where we really only focus on fact, I find myself many times, some of this information, like concrete, hardcore information, to be later debunked a week or two later, debunked in the mainstream media, calling it a conspiracy theory. It's like, what are you talking about? Like these things. I mean, yeah, we could speculate on what it means or whatever, but like certain facts are facts that can't be disproven. They're facts, and those are what are being deemed conspiracy theories. So it should have people worried that like truth does not matter to them. It doesn't matter if you're just telling the truth. If it's an inconvenient truth, then you are in their crosshairs, and that is extremely important to remember. Thank you, Amelia, gentlemen, for your article about Brent Lee, escaped from the rabbit hole, the conspiracy theorist who abandoned his dangerous beliefs. On the 4th of October, we covered that. He is exceptional for two reasons. First, he managed to pull himself out of the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories on his own. And second, he is attempting to inspire his former conspiracy partners to rethink their absurd beliefs. When you read the U.S. author Steve... Now, what are they doing here? They already put out that article. So now they're putting out another article praising their previous article, essentially, is what's happening here. And what is it about? Oh, it's about this person that realized how ridiculously crazy he was and how absurd his ideas were, and decided to quit them cold turkey. Like you could quit facts or truth cold turkey, but whatever. I mean, if you want to go insane and dig your head in the sand, by all means. But that's ridiculous. And now they're doing it again. Now they're going back and talking about the article that they created and saying, oh, what a great thing. What a perfect example of some. This is the re-education shit that Hillary Clinton was just talking about the other day. Do you think she's joking? It's the second time she's talked about putting people in camps. And you heard Joe Biden and his Nazi Germany background, with his fist pumped, the red and black, and like I could see the eagle, and it's just insane. And he was saying the exact same thing, right? These spreaders of misinformation, these domestic extremists, these conspiracy theorists. It's the people that aren't brainwashed and indoctrinated by the mainstream media. It's the people that can actually look at the mainstream media and laugh at it and be like, oh, this is just so ridiculous. Those people are not welcome in the New World Order. You are not welcome. That's a pretty serious thing when you really sit down and think about it. You got the most powerful country and some of the most powerful agencies in that country using their propaganda channels to tell the masses, including their own websites, their very own websites, calling it all out, saying these are the enemies of us. They're destroying democracy. They're causing people to die during COVID. They're this, that, the other, and everything else. And they will continue that. And that's not going to let up. It's only going to get worse as we head into the end days. Which we are in now, by the way, just so you know. Thought that might be a memo you should get. So it's going to get pretty messy from here on out. It's going to take a little while, but once the big one happens, and it's not far off, I'd say November. I think Siri said November too, actually, so we'll see, though. We'll see. Could be before, could be after, but when something big happens, and it's going to be like the new 9/11, right? It's going to catch all the attention, and everybody's going to be like, and the government's going to be like, see, we told you. And of course, they're going to tie it in. So just to recap, what I think ultimately what's going to be is kind of what I was saying. It's going to be, they're going to make it out to look like, even though it was more than likely, almost certainly done, in, MI5 and Mossad and all the other intelligence agencies across this world that are working together. They're going to do something big. And this winter is probably going to be the dark winter that Biden was so anxiously waiting for. He was so excited in his first year, he just kind of spilled the beans. But that I don't think that, maybe that'll be the big one, but I think it'll be things leading up to that. Before that, I think we're going to start seeing what we were seeing with the attacks on the infrastructure, the power, the energy, whatever they're called, power stations of some sort, but some type of attack nonetheless. And then it's going to be like, oh well, these people were radicalized online, they probably left a manifesto, probably each and every one of them left a manifesto and dropped their ID somewhere. That seems to be a thing. Passports, all that. The engine of the planes are completely gone. They burn up in the fire, but yet the dude's ID managed to survive. You remember that in 9/11 in that field? Like, there's no plane left, but the guy's ID was there. So, and they did that in the 7/7 London bombings too. And they were also running that same exercise at the very same moment that it went live, right? It's the same train station, the same hub, the same train car. I mean, look it up after I'm done talking. Yeah, I don't know if YouTube will have it, but go on like Odyssey or BitChute and see if you could find the guy talking about the 7/7 London bombings going live, and or exercise going live. That it's just ridiculous, and this happens all of the time. These types of things, right? But it's about setting the stage, really bringing out the whole narrative that they're going to be talking through and through the media over time, like, oh, well, we just learned this little piece, and now we know that these people, and AI is going to take a part of that as well, because we've also been seeing that, oh, if we could only profile these people, if we only had the technology to realize that there's certain characteristics, but we're not clever enough, and there needs to be an algorithm, and oh, no, we discovered the algorithm. It's like, you could see where this is going, right? And then once this is why I think there's going to be a series of attacks, because one attack isn't going to be, unless it's massive. If it's a massive attack, like a nuke in New York City or something, other than that, it's going to be awfully hard to do what it is that you want to do when it comes to rounding people up. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have multiple attacks. You're going to have to say, oh shit, this happened, and then 2 days later another one happened, and another one, and now the public can never know when it's going to happen. We're all living on edge because these terrorists, these domestic extremists, these conspiracy theorists are out there, and at any given time, at any given place, disaster can strike. So what we need to do is we need to find the ideologies, the things that these people believe. We need to profile them, and we need to get them in a place to keep the other people safe. That's not far from us right now. The key here, what we're all doing here and on all these other channels, isn't just merely to expose this truth, to share these facts, right? Because you're just as capable as anybody else. What it's trying to do is bringing these people together and hoping that we can foment change, that we can actually do something. And I don't even believe I know that we can do something. I know that we will do something. But I know that also requires a lot of work on your guys' part. I hate to say it, but it does. When I say you're here for a reason, like, I don't even like saying it like that. It just sounds weird, but it's the truth. So hopefully, as things start getting going, we start realizing how important what's going on really is, and maybe I can find the words to say what it is that needs to be said in some of them videos, and we can share them as needed and get it out there. I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Like I said, just wanted to cover this to let you know that between this and the nanotechnology stuff, because that isn't going away, and I know people are talking like, well, the October 4th stuff was just, Russia did it the same day, the U.S. did it the same day. It's probably because, they're planning some nuke stuff. No, I'm sure that's what they would want you to think, though. I'm not so convinced. I'm not also so convinced that October 4th thing is definitely going to activate any type. I have no idea. But I'm not taking anything off the table, that's for sure. And also, without that even happening, with the stuff going on with Neuralink and everything else like that, the digital IDs, the IMF, it's all coming together right in front of us, guys. All of this. We are in the end times. And World War III has just started. I hope you guys have a great night. Enjoy every single thing that you can enjoy. Don't take shit for granted. Stop. Be present in the moment. Look around. If you're with your family, your loved ones, you're enjoying a good piece of food, everything that you can, enjoy it and pray. God bless. Much love. Peace.